about research, being part of this community, practitioners, researchers. And I just want to start mentioning that this idea, this started as kind of an idea, a dream. And it comes from trying to connect and bring together everyone that had a common interest. And for me personally, it's very pleasing to see that there is an appetite for this. We keep being reminded by Vangelis that we don't have time, And I keep thinking we do have time, and this is our event and our time. And there are people that are presenting, sharing their research, but you are also part of this event. And I just want to create that space that for this to be successful, it's all of us. It's probably as well the quality, or most importantly, the quality and the engagement in the questions and the discussion. So we are trying to be a little bit fluid how we do this to allow as much time as possible for questions and engagement from everyone. So please don't just kind of stay in the background, be part of it as well, and help us create an amazing event for all of us. Okay, with this, let me, I need to tell you a couple more housekeeping comments here. So in terms of time for the presenters, when you see Hazel coming on camera, it means there is 1 minute to the time allocated for the presentation. It's just to alert the speaker so that you know in case you wonder. And this will happen once she completes her first, her presentation, and she's doing it first. Okay, so with this, let me introduce you to Dr. Hazel Messenger, Associate Professor in Teaching. She will be sharing the findings of her research in the creation of transformative partnership with a private higher education institution in Sri Lanka. And you might all know 80% of candidates, even if they are eligible, and they don't have access to university places. So it's interesting, dynamic, and region, and has recently been hit by harsh economic and political conditions. So without no further ado, Dr. Hazel, over to you.
Thanks, Herminia. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Fine. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm here in slightly sunny Essex, just north of London, and I'm going to talk to you today about a partnership that has developed with a private HEI in Sri Lanka. And I'm going to keep it with the thumbnails on the side because of time, so that I can move relatively quickly through the presentation, and then also be able to look at any questions. Sorry, I just managed to lose my screen then, which was a little bit inconvenient. Anyway, this presentation talks about a private HEI partnership from our university with Sri Lanka. It has been going for 10 years. And this, my research is interested in the operationalization of TNE and the experiences of all the colleagues involved in developing a partnership. So at the moment, I'm working with our quality office on quality procedures, and also with our professional services teams on their experience of working in partnership within an organisation. Very interesting stuff. So as Herminia said, in Sri Lanka, only 80% of people who are eligible for a state place can get a state place. So the growth in private HEIs is considerable. And if you go along the street, you'll see Canada, Australia, New Zealand, UK, etc., China, partnerships occurring. And it's a very competitive market, very important for our colleagues that we work with to be quality. Sri Lankan higher education tends to be more transmissive than UKHE, much more sit down, take notes, repeat it back in an examination. And the condition of the validation was that the staff should have a week-long staff development programme in learning and teaching in HE, which was quite demanding, but very interesting, because it is on that this partnership is built over the last 10 years. So just to say, first of all, that it's interesting to note that TNE partnership is a business arrangement with learning as a key organising principle. And Sutton talks about the relational continuum of partnerships going from the business transaction, where the focus is on the financial gain, to transformational, where the partnership is working in all parts of both organisations. For my own organisation, that's a high principle, often very difficult to achieve depending on the people who are involved, because our university has a commitment to developing a post-colonial approach to TNE, not always possible. So what I'd like to talk about first of all is that partnerships in education involve learning in partnership and working in partnership. So if aiming for a transformative TNE partnership, both principles and are important, and both are influenced by the culture, the history, the experience of learning beforehand, and the wider social and political context. It's very important that one of the most important principles is boundary spanning, and we look at Whitchurch and Williams for that, and for the development of a hybrid third space where the development of the partnership can occur in genuine partnership between those involved in the transactions and the relationships. So to replace the colonial authority of them and us with we. So developing a we approach is very important. So looking at some significant research by Troy Heffernan and others in the UK and in Australia, that the partnership exists in a business life cycle. So this is business research which takes any relationship between organisations from awareness through to early interaction, exploring each other's possibilities, expansion when trust is being developed, a commitment to the development and to the partnership, and then eventually to dissolution. On the other side, you can look at the factors, again from business research, affecting success of international business partnerships, and seen to be communication, most significantly trust, having an affective commitment to the partnership, a transactional commitment to the partnership, and being aware of culture. And one of the most important things about this set of research is it points out who should be involved at a particular stage in a partnership and what types of factors will affect the success. So, for example, communication is extremely important in the early interaction and exploration stages in the life cycle, and particularly between those people who are involved in operationalizing the partnership rather than those who have set it up. So whereas awareness and developing the business contract may have involved senior management and perhaps quality procedures, it is the people who are going to be working together and them communicating and then developing trust and getting to know each other that will allow the partnership to develop from the early interaction through to expansion and so be successful in the longer term. So this particular stage is quite fragile. It's when impressions are formed, expectations, boundaries, and the possibilities for growth explored. To progressed to the next stage, a high degree of mutual learning. So learning in partnership, working in partnership, and a high degree of interaction and engagement, and to reduce uncertainty. And it's the development of trust and how it is demonstrated and developed with demonstrations of rapport and confidence and so on. So specific early projects can help develop this. So this particular work relates to a project that was the condition of the validation. It was a 5-day learning and teaching program. It's a case study analysis, and it was the early stages of the TNE partnership. And it was important to note that it was requested to be the learning and teaching unit develop and deliver the programme. They couldn't do it. So it was done instead by the academic link tutor, who had formerly been an educational developer. So the person who would be developing the partnership over the ensuing years developed and delivered this particular learning and teaching programme. It had support from colleagues across the sector, drawing in those contacts, and 5 full days of materials and activities were developed in advance, and the partnership was reaching into the university prior to departure because of collaboration with the learning and teaching unit, and resources, flip charts, pens, etc., post-its and sweets, I'll mention those in a moment, were all developed before leaving. There was a commitment of the partner organisation. They did not see it as a lack of trust, but as a beneficial opportunity, giving them a competitive advantage. And all senior managers were fully involved all week. They did not leave, they did not go to their offices, and all staff were fully involved. And these were people from not just from the capital city, Colombo, but from out of town as well. They all came into the capital for the week, and we were provided with rooming and refreshments and worked 9 till 5 days. So the commitment of the partner organisation was very important indeed. You'll see photos in a moment. These all have permission. So the 5 days of planned activities were supplemented by collaborations, flip chart, giving group feedback, post-it feedback, taking photographs, sharing sweets, sharing jokes, and so on. And the key learning point here was a trusting shared space, creating valuing contributions and engagement in a context where this wasn't the norm. Flip chart responses, not the norm at all. Valuing the contributions of less senior members of staff, not normal at all. So it created and modelled a different way of learning. We took photographs. They were useful for many reasons. For example, using a camera roll to start the day, putting them in pre-prepared presentations, asking who ate all the sweets. We hadn't realised that the staff had left at 4 a.m. to start the first day and hadn't had breakfast. So taking big bowls of sweets, as is normal to a conference, was very welcome. We also carried out an April Fool joke, and I'll talk about that in a second. The managers were allowed to work with each other rather than with other members of staff. They didn't normally talk about learning and teaching. Their focus was on targets, and they listened to their staff team's voices, and we created memories with momentum. So doing shared marking activities to ascertain how people learnt to mark, doing group feedback on experiences and talking about them. These have been reusable learning objects over the ensuing years. And the best one of all, which was on our second day, it was, thank you, April Fool's Day. So I did an April Fool, which went down extremely well. So the feedback showed us that there was a third space emerging. It's a good experience sharing knowledge with someone from a different context. Photos were taken by the partner manager from the second day, and the modelling of active learning in local universities. So it was a stage in the development of the partnership, collaborating on developing a learning and teaching programme. The programme was valued by the university and the partner organisation. The values of the partnership demonstrated through the way the programme delivered. There was care and respect demonstrated, and the commitment to relationship building shown by the partners to each other, and a development of a culture of learning and working together in a third space, which was temporal, relational, and physical, and how that has continued over the ensuing 10 years. Thank you very much. Gosh, that was quick.
Thank you very much, Hazel. Okay, over to everyone. Can you please raise your hands for questions, please? Wendy, please come on camera. Well, you are on camera there.
Yeah, hi Hazel. Yeah, it's really great
Morning.
to see
Morning,
this.
Wendy.
What I should actually say is, as a result of our work in Sri Lanka, I'm head of partnerships at London Metropolitan University, by the way, and I've just mentioned the university, but never mind. That we're now going to develop this for other partners as well, and developing into a certified programme at master's level. Because it really was a successful experience, and as I said, our partnership now has been going for over 10 years, so it's really good to see. Great, thank you, well done, brilliant.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Can you please raise your hands for questions?
I'll just say that it was the timing of the opportunity in the development of the partnership that was absolutely essential, and who was involved and how it was done.
Thank you, Hazel.
I think George has
Araida?
his hand up.
Yeah, Araida, please.
Thank you, Hazel. Thank you for the very interesting talk and sharing your experience. I was particularly interested in the part where you said that the institutions saw this as a development opportunity rather than a lack of trust. Was that something that was organically resulted like that? Is it the communication already that good between both teams that you saw yourself as one and sharing and helping each other? Or could you, because some of the experiences we had, the partner institution can be quite reluctant and they can, it feels like they felt they're being judged rather than we are trying to homogenize the teaching experience for the students. What was the strategy for your team to make sure that this was so as a developmental opportunity?
Well, the proposal was done in country. So we had a validation that was in country. We had got to know each other over 2 days. We had travelled through the country together by train. And a lot of relationships had been developed. So when it came to the panel saying, you've got to do this, there was already a story of we're getting to know each other. And so I think that was important from the beginning, and it was done with humanity. So the chair of the panel, when he fed it back, said, you're a relatively young organisation, you've got fantastic contacts here on the island, we think you would benefit from this. And then it was because the people that were developing it and delivered it were actually part of the team that would be working with that partner with regard to operationalizing the courses, that it wasn't seen as someone else coming in. And I will say that maybe it's lucky, but I don't think so. I think if you are the type of people that go out to meet your partners and they come out to meet you, then the relationships develop. It's not false.
Hazel, I'm going to stop you there.
Stop
if I
me
may.
talking.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
George, can you come in, please?
So Hazel will do the timekeeping. Yeah.
Very quickly.
George, the last question, and then we move to the next presentation.
Very quickly.
Thank
Hazel, how long from the start of the conversation to actually going through starting the validation process? Because once that starts, you know that the relationship is confident and is moving forward. what is the
I'll
time
actually,
span?
if you don't mind, I'll ask Wendy to answer that one.
Yeah, I mean, we went out about a year before to actually scope places that we wanted to work with. So we had started an initial conversation with this organisation, and then so I was actually in the business school at the time, so I was the head of partnerships in the business school then, and so then it's sort of an ongoing conversation between myself, between our quality unit as it was then, and my other colleagues in the school as well. So we actually start then getting to know each other, developing. I mean, it was done mainly by Skype, and because we weren't really using the other online tools then, and then by visits as well. So I think I had another visit before we actually had the validation, and then we had the validation in country as well. So we were sort of getting to know each other. So is that your question?
Wendy, thank you. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. If I may, we are going to move on to the next presentation. There will be opportunity to ask questions a little bit later on. So just hold on in there, please. If I may ask that everyone switches off their cameras, please, other than Dr. Olgun. Thank you. Gaga, can you please switch off your camera if you can? Nick Mitchell, are you with us? Can you please switch off your camera? Thank you. Dr. Olgun Cicek, Professor of Business, he will be sharing with us insights into the main pillars of internationalization by looking at the success story of Dakant Eylül University in Turkey. And Dr. Olgun brings extensive experience on internationalization and quality assurance. And he has a very long list of titles, so I won't go through them. With this, Dr. Olgun, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Harmonia. Appreciate that. Yes, for the sake of time, I'll also speed up. And thanks to Hazel, she already covered one of the pillars of internationalization partnership for us. It was a really successful project. Congratulations. Now, what I'll do, I'll just go quickly the pillars of internationalization, how we really listed and worked on. And then for each one, I'll just give a few examples, specifically what we did so far during the last 1 year as Dokuz University in Izmir in Turkey. The first thing is, of course, internationalization starts with the memberships. The membership for international associations and organizations and networks. We started through this. Then the international accreditation is the second pillar. We could look into that. Of course, the international rankings is there as well. And I would like to emphasize the international partnership, which we already had some examples on that. And afterwards, the international events or international exhibitions that for both ways we can contribute and we can receive and send our academics and staff to them. International marketing and promotion is another important pillar that you have to be present there with all your social media websites and other presentations. And internationalization committee, I'll talk about that in a minute. And international advisory board is another important pillar for us. And I would highlight that last but not least, the international students, international faculty, as well as international staff are the backbones of the internationalization. And the last thing I will give as an example is the science diplomacy for internationalization. So let me, after having this list, let me share with you what we did. For each item, we had worked a lot, and during the last 12 months, we did many achievements on each of them. So the point here is the first one, international membership. It's really important that we start with the IAU, International Association of Universities, membership, and we managed to get there. And the second one is European University Association. And thirdly, International Association of University Presidents, as well as some research networks for our university, because the university is a state university, research university with an internationalization mission. So we have to do all these in during this last year. Regarding the second pillar, which is really important for us as an accreditation quality assurance expert, the accreditation was our second issue. We started with the institutional accreditation. What we did, basically, we applied to British Accreditation Council to get the institutional accreditation from them. The process has already been started. It has been 4 to 6 months now. We are working on preparations and it's an ongoing process. So this is on the one hand. On the other hand, the second thing is for us program accreditation. In that respect, our business faculty, it's fully in English programs, is now under AACSB accreditation process. So it's now more than half of the stage is completed. So we'll be getting that as well. Another one is for from Equals for our language school accreditation. Another one is from FIBA for our master's degree in social science. So we now try to carry on this accreditation for other faculties as well. It's not only program accreditation for local level, but also we want to go for international level as well. Maybe the ABET is the next for our Faculty of Engineering and so forth. In terms of international collaboration and partnerships, what basically we did is we really contacted with our partner universities from Europe and beyond. We have now 103 memorandum of understanding with institutions. And I would honestly say that we try to keep at least 20–30% of them active and up and running in some specific projects from the both sides. So that's important for us. The other important part of the partnership is through the Erasmus+. We are part of the Erasmus+, and Erasmus office is under me as well. We have over 400 agreements with our European partners, and our student mobility is on both ways, working up and running, and really it's moving very well. The international projects is another pillar that we worked on it. It's not only the European projects like Horizon, but also we are actively involved in KA 171. So we have some partner universities and consortiums. We are working now closely with EIT, European Innovation and Technology Institute as well. So these are the research university part of it we would like to extend. International exhibitions, fairs, as well as events. We do organize lots of events. I would say at least 1 or 2 in a month, whether it's a symposium, panel, workshop, or a conference or colloquium, whatever we call it. So we invite people to our university, and we do hybrid or online. So all types are available. So our faculty members participate, it's vice versa, I would say. So that's an important pillars that we try to go international from the academic as well as research perspective. We updated our website for international marketing and promotion. All the social media tools are actively used and up and running again with the current information available there. It's not only for recruitment or promotion, but also for our own status, prestige, and follow-up purposes as well. Internally and externally, we use that actively. We publish quarterly, every 3 months, we publish a GAU Global. It is the university bulletin, I would say, which summarizes the last 3 months of international events or international activities, whether academic or non-academic, taken place in and out of university. We formed an internationalization committee internally. Directors were member as well as external partners from the industry, namely from Chamber of Commerce or municipality or representative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So we try to get some different perspective from them as well, also from the inside. Every 2 months we do meet regularly with this committee and try to follow up the roadmap and also set the ground and how to say, to have more events at international level, whether academic or research-based. And that committee is like a feeding body for our internationalization mission. So this is our internal setup. In terms of international, we formed International Advisory Board. It is a totally independent body formed from outside the country. I would say we have 15 members now, and those 15 members are respective professors or academics, researchers in their field from different countries, from US to Japan, you name it. So this group is actively working, and they also meet every 3 months. I am the only one in the board to coordinate and do the secretariat and connection with the university. So they have their own agenda. They try to give their support on a voluntary base as an ambassador for our university to achieve the mission and maybe to support our strategies and policies. So that's really working very well. We did 2 meetings so far, and it's one of our really strengths that we get. Yeah, thank you. And we are really happy with their full support. So the last point that I could mention is the Science Diplomacy Award. I have personally been nominated for this award. So this is given by the Higher Education Council for internationalization, as well as using the higher education institution for the science diplomacy purposes. So that's something, after listing all these activities over the last year, we realized we have almost 150 pages of a bulletin. So it's really an honor and proud of achieving all these internationalization pillars by our university. So now we are waiting to get the feedback, the results, and the outcomes. And we keep growing our internationalization with our partners. And with the new strategic plan, I hope from next year onwards, we'll get more and more. I think I forgot only the rankings. So what we did for the rankings, Times Higher Education, we had a 3 years contract with them on data points. And now we are proudly saying that in Hong Kong 2 weeks ago, we were awarded and nominated as an award for our Faculty of Arts. And now we are in the 500th band. So it's really another achievement for internationalization. So thanking to you all, and I'll be happy to answer the questions and discuss afterwards. Thanks, Hazel.
Thank you very much, Olgun. Give me 1 second so that I see. Wow, please come on camera to ask the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Hamidia. Thank you, Professor Olgun, for your very interesting presentation on the various pillars of internationalization. I'm particularly interested in your idea of this International Advisory Board. You got 50 members from various countries meeting very often, and obviously all voluntary. Just wondering how you got them together. Is it through your own contacts or you know, network contacts? How did you put them together?
Thank you very much. And I initiated the idea, and then I contacted with all the faculty, asking their key contact persons in their respective partner universities, whom are closely working with us, or they are valuable, their research or their contribution for us, and they have a good relationship so that they could really do it on a voluntary basis for us. So that was the starting point. So I got a list, people from their connections, from Faculty of Engineering to law school or medical school. And the rest, I would say almost half is my personal context and my colleagues professionally I know for last 10, 15 years, and they were kind to accept it because, you know, it's really a challenge for people to accept this kind of voluntary or unknown contribution with these busy schedules. So if you know people research-wise or personal level, they do it. So we do the other way around. We also contribute to their universities and their boards if they need it. So that's how it works. So I suggest you ask your people, get a list and add whatever you have or individual levels, and then you can do the selection as per your priorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to both of you. I don't see other questions at the moment, so we are going to move to the next speaker, and there will be opportunities to ask questions in a minute.
Harmenia,
Yes.
with apologies, I didn't prepare a presentation. Really apologies to our audience because I'm in a business travel for the last week, so I didn't have time, and I just wanted to make it really as interactive. So thanks for the slot and sharing, and appreciate the questions and comments. Afterwards, I'll be happy to follow up. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us, and it's no problem. I'm sure everyone got a lot out of the conversation, so thank you so much. Okay, without further ado, we move to Gaga, who is joining us from Georgia, Gaga Gvenetadze. He's studying his PhD, and he's going to share with us the journey so far, key findings, and how it is all going for him. So over to you, Gaga. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. I'm Gaga. I'm Gaga Gvenetadze from Georgia, and I'm a PhD student. I finished like second year already, and I'm doing a research about higher education. And yeah, I'm presenting now what I've done so far and what I'm gonna do later, and what findings I found till now. And my main focus is, my research focus is acculturation of foreign students in Georgia, and specifically acculturation of foreign students for medical university in Georgia, and how they are coping with the stress and everything they might have in the country. And I will try to briefly say why I chose the topic and what I found when I was doing a literature review. So according to UNESCO, the number of international mobility students increased by almost 70% last 10 years, and it exceeded already 6 million people. And yeah, more than 6 million people are mobility students already in the world. What happens in Georgia also, like, we started implementing English teaching programs in Georgia, and we received significant amounts of international students in the country. And if it was like in 2013, 4,000 foreign students in Georgia, in 2016 it was already 10,000, and now in the recent years we have 25,000 more than 25,000 international students in the country. And I got interested to study this topic because the country which didn't used to have international students, how ready are the environment for accepting international students, and why international students choosing to come here, and how are they experiencing here. So I hope that my research will help institutions, universities, to create, let's say, a guideline, or to have a different, to change the perspectives and help students more to acculturate more and to be integrated in the country and in the system. And yeah, since we have 10 minutes, I won't go to the details in the literature review. I will just briefly show you what kind of literature I reviewed and what I found in the review. So first of all, I tried to find the theoretical framework and the theories which discussed acculturation. And you can see on the slide the authors that I used. Of course, I used the Berry's model of acculturation because it's kind of cornerstone of the other acculturation theories, and yeah, I couldn't avoid using the Berry's theory in this case. And what I found in all those researches, which was what I found the common things in those researches. It was students are having language barrier in the countries when they go and study abroad, of course, and it's not a surprise. There are educational stressors, social cultural stressors. The student might come across a discrimination, and there are some practical stressors which comes from having a visa, trying to enter the country, and some other practical stressors that could come up with while they are trying to move to another country for study. And since I mentioned Berry's theory and theories which other researchers are using while studying acculturation, I found a different theoretical framework for my research, and it is a Bronfenbrenner theory, which explains acculturation at a little bit a different level, and it uses a different. It includes many factors in the framework and many different levels. And it calls ecological model of theory and consists with 5 systems of interdependent interactions. So what are those things? We can see it here. So there is a macro system, which is like a first level of this according to ecological theory. There is a mesosystem. There is a appearance and macro system and chronosystem. I will explain it later. And I developed the research questions based on those ecological theory, and I will try to respond to find the responses to the each level of the ecological system theory, and I have hypotheses also for each of them. So my scope is to use this theory alongside with other acculturation theory, of course, with the Berry theory, and try to take as a framework this ecological theory and try to address all of them with the research questions and with the hypothesis as well. And what I'm doing for that, I have already covered the first part and a little bit of second part. So what is the first part of the research? Is I gathered some psychologists, anthropologists, and higher education experts, and I'm trying to get the information from there, what they think, what is the most important things for acculturation, and to draw some conclusions from them. And then I have to try to discover what's written in the policy documents of the universities regarding the international students and how they are implementing those what is in the documents. So first thing is if there are the right things written in the policy documents and what is the practice of that. Afterwards, I will have in-depth interviews with the students from abroad, and will try to understand from them I will try to have a deeper understanding of what they think, what are their perceptions about they being acculturated in the country, and then I will go to the bigger scale and I will have a questionnaires, and with the questionnaires I will try to gather the data which helps me to draw a conclusion and give the information afterwards as a suggestions to the universities. And in the questionnaires also, there will be different scales built into the questionnaires. So I found different scales which other authors are using while they are trying to address acculturation processes, but I chose those three which are the most recent ones, and also which address directly to the needs where I need to do research about. So, I don't have it on a slide, but what I found so far, I had a couple of interviews with the students, and what I found so far, it was the language barrier comes as a first problem also here in Georgia, because Georgia is a small country, but we have our own language, which is quite a strong and difficult language to learn. And students, when they study medicine, they need to have practice at universities. And when they go and speak with the patients,
1 minute.
Yes, sometimes it's difficult for them to comprehend everything what the patients are telling them, and for them it's difficult to find good treatment solutions, and they are not sure if they are giving a right advice or no, and sometimes they feel frustration because of that. Other things are which comes with the language. Sometimes students from India or Lebanon or Jordan, they stated that sometimes they cannot grasp jokes which classmates are making. It's not necessarily jokes about them, but jokes in general, which is cultural jokes, let's say, and they are not feeling confident when people are laughing, if they are laughing about them, or it's just they are laughing about jokes, and the situation is kind of intimidating for them. And also studying system, let's say, when they come in the country and they are not aware of the system of the country, and they try to ask from universities to have more guidance in terms of adjusting in the system and trying to have more like a smoother journey during those 6 years that they study in here. So there were other also other cases, but yeah, if you have questions, I can discuss about it, and I try to fit in 10 minutes. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Gaga. And well done for starting the research and keeping on the journey. Can you stop sharing if that's okay?
Yes,
so that
sure.
we can see you. And can I please invite questions from the floor? Everyone is very quiet. We were really expecting tons of questions and running out of time because everyone was going to be asking questions. So please come have a chance, yeah, and help us create the success of the event. Dawao, over to you.
Yeah, sorry, it's me again. But I was really interested in your research, your PhD research. It's in because it's an area I have an interest in. You know, about this acculturation of international students, how they adapt. You know, when they're in a new country. Can I just first of all ask for clarification? Do these first of all, which countries are, you know, these international students or foreign students are from? I think you mentioned India, maybe another country. And also, are they studying through Georgian or through English? First of all, if you could clarify.
Yeah, yes, students, thank you for the question, first of all. Students are coming from India and Middle East mostly, also from neighbor countries, Azerbaijan, for example, or also from Europe. but mostly Middle East and India. And research it will be in Georgian, but I have an obligation also to write. It will be presented in Georgia because it's a Georgian university, but I have to translate it as well because I have it's a mandatory. So it will be also in English at the end.
Yeah, thank you. I would be really interested in hear more about your interviews with experts, these educational psychologists, their views in addition to your literature review. Yeah, what you can gain from the literature. So really looking forward to that. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's the invitation to the next one, Gaga. Thank you very much, Tawau. George, please, over to you with your question.
Right. Thanks. Very, very interesting. I do a lot of transnational education, particularly in places outside the UK, although I'm based in the UK. And seeing the challenges that, foreign students coming to a place like Georgia or other Central Asian countries, and TNE really moving from a westward movement to an Eastern or Central Asian movement because of cost and the challenges that pose for students coming into your marketplace. And I think doubly with the research you're doing, you're having to understand these audiences. Was that quite difficult because you're coming from a perspective of having to deliver your PhD in an international application, and then understanding the individuals who are coming from international from a completely different perspective?
Yes. That it is quite kind of difficult because first of all you have to understand the culture where the students are coming from, and also of course you need to be having understanding of the local culture also where the students are coming. Where students are coming, and I have I have an experience studying abroad and being abroad within the multicultural environment. I have it with the different countries in Poland, in Italy, in Spain. So I'm trying to remember my feelings, what my course mates were feeling, and I try to test whether it was only my feelings or it is something general that students are having. And of course, when it comes with a specific subject and specific topic in the medical education, they have something different that I wouldn't have because I didn't have practice like they have at the hospitals, and that's something different also. Yeah, it is challenging to understand and make everything in order, but I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to fit in the framework, so at the end to have a conclusion, which
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Samantha, can you come on camera if you can to ask the question? Thank you.
Sure. Morning. Hi, Gaga. My name's Samantha. I work on a UK HE TNE program, which is delivered in Paris. And I'm particularly interested in the student identity within TNE programs and how students see themselves. And it seemed to me that there are some parallels there with what you were what you're studying. And I just wondered whether in the interviews that you've conducted with the students, have they said anything about identity and how they view themselves as students on your programs?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, what I've done so far, it was kind of test to understand which direction I need to go. So maybe I didn't ask them to dig into the identity things, but there is one of the things which I'm discussing with my supervisor, because we also think that identity might come somehow might appear in the research. Because yes, students coming from different cultures with the strong identity features, yeah, I think it will be one of the topics that I need to have discussion in my paper later.
Great, thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hazel, over to you. And if you can come on camera to ask the question. Thank you.
Yeah, so Gaga, thank you. Really interesting stuff. And so good to see Bronfenbrenner in there, which obviously has a base in children's education. But I'm interested in the aspect of culture, because we're talking at the university about creating culturally dynamic partnerships. So it's not one-sided. And it's not a question of people acculturating to something, but actually both sides acknowledging that there are different cultures. So are you looking at how your university adapts to different cultures, or how the students have to adapt to the culture of Georgia?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you first of all for the question. Yes, my understanding. What I'm trying to figure out is that what universities are doing for helping students to acculturate. So I am like pro student-centered learning. So I'm trying to see what universities needs to do to welcome students and to help students to go through their journeys smoothly, let's say. So that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I try to do, to understand what are their policies, the university policies, and what are their practice, what they do for students' acculturation, to help them to be welcomed in the country.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gaga, thank you very much for the presentation, and we definitely look forward to the findings and the conclusion once you finish it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
We move to the next presentation. Rabia Khattak, PhD student, and she's going to share her findings so far. She's looking at inclusivity in the Canadian higher education institutions and how a data set for reporting sustainable development goals can help with that. And with that, over to you. Thank you. And she just mentioned you might see a different name there. I let you explain that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's my son's name, and I was just not. I think he was using my laptop for his studies, so he decided to change it, but I'm not being able to change it. So my name is Rabia, as explained. My thesis comes back from the fact that I had like 15 years of experience with the UN, and I remember chasing the MDG, the Millennium Development Goals, which were the 8 Millennium Development Goals. And I always used to wonder, we're spending so much money, giving so much from all these developed countries, and we keep on investing in the MDGs, but why can't we ever monitor or report on them? And why do we always fail to move forward on this? Of course, as soon as I decided to move on and work a little bit on the higher education, and I started working on inclusive.
You're muted. We cannot hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Did you were not able to hear me?
It was just 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so what happened was that since after the UN, I decided to do some inclusive education work in the higher education. And that's when I realized there are a lot of missing numbers. Then after that, since the SDGs has started off, this was 2015, I was like, oh God, these guys are coming up with a number of goals all over again, but they're again not being able to measure it. So that's when I moved to Canada. And I thought, yes, I've now come from a developing country to a developed country. They must know what's happening with the SDGs. So the first thing I did was I looked at the Canadian ambition. I looked at everything. I was like, oh my God, they don't have targets. What is happening? These guys should know their targets. They're the ones who are pushing us to do all the work. So why don't they have it?
Ask that everyone mutes their microphones, please.
Herminia, I think the mic is muted again.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank
I don't
you.
know why it's happening every time.
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
It was just a couple of seconds, so we will alert you when it happens. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Okay, so what happened was that the Statistics Canada was the institute that I realized, since I was a new immigrant, keep in mind, this is the first time I'd landed in Canada, decided to see, okay, let's see Stats Canada, which is a great institute run. It has a Canadian indicator framework. Let me see how they're going to do this. Whenever where I was working, I used to talk about the SDGs. It seemed like a new concept for everyone. So I was like, okay, I know that Justin Trudeau was all about inclusive EDI. I was like, this man, everybody must be included in the higher education. I decided to study all the different education surveys that they were all doing. The PSIS was the first one because it was still continuing. It was like covering all the higher education institutes. I was like, this must be where I can get the data for the SDG 4.5, which looks at inclusive education. I looked at the National Graduate Survey. I was like, okay, that would be another place where I could get that information. Youth in Transition Survey and the other two surveys had closed down, but I decided I want to look at those as well. Then I sort of looked at what about some because I saw data was there. So I said, okay, what about this consortium of universities, which has 96, which is looking at reporting. So I went through that as well. But I realized, end of the day, nobody had the data I was looking for. Nobody. And I was like, why? So that was where my research question came in from. Where are the current gaps in the data collection being carried out by the Canadian higher education for the purpose of reporting on the SDGs? I knew that Canada was reporting on the SDGs, but the report did not completely missed out the chapter on inclusive education. I was like, SDG 4.5 doesn't exist, but education does exist. Higher education reporting doesn't exist. So, okay, so I used the methodology that was a mixed methodology, and interview I looked at, because of COVID, I could not carry out my interviews with individuals at the university, so I carried out interviews of documents. That was a sort of did help me remove any of my biasness, which I might have met with if I had done interviews. I did key informant interviews with Universities Canada and Stats Canada. It was good that they were very positive about reporting on the SDG, but they also realized their limitations. So that have from my study. Keep in mind, I just looked at Ontario, but it had the highest number of universities in there. And so one of the things so that was a limitation of my study. Government of Canada, okay, what StatsCan did was, I said there were some really valuable closed surveys. So I was like, why aren't you looking, why did you close them up? So they're like, you see, what we're doing is we're merging them with some of our some of our current ones because we can't afford them anymore. But those old surveys, interestingly, had all the data I needed on disadvantaged groups. So I took 5 disadvantaged groups. I took persons with disabilities, I took the indigenous groups, I took women, minorities, and I'm so sorry if I'm forgetting the last one because I'm trying to speed up things. Okay, so all I did was, so what I thought of was, okay, since StatsCan is a federal entity, they don't have any control over the provincial higher education, and provinces are the ones that control all the education institutes in Canada. How will they feed into StatsCan's surveys? So do they have a control? So what I did was I was thinking, why don't they sit down together? Why don't they make everybody realize that it's so important at the global level to stay as a landmark, as an institute that can work effectively and can serve as a great example for others to follow. So in other words, what I did was that none of the SDGs which have ever been measured to report effectively on disadvantage groups, I thought this is the perfect place. Higher education institutes, when you collect data on admissions, when you collect data, that's the best way you can start disaggregating data and then being able to present it. So it was very interesting when my son, whose name is right now appearing, was applying to different universities. I saw that that was included in the admission service. But keeping in view that I did not have access to the admission form because that's a lot of information that's internal, that's there. I was like, why can't the universities feed that data into StatScan? Why is it that they're just sitting on that data? And why can't StatScan come up with a standard form of collecting that data? So that's why I said, why don't you have a roundtable together, come up with a mechanism so that a country like Pakistan, where I am originally from, can take that. I mean, they can take that example rather than struggling and people giving them money and constantly being told, oh, you need to report on it, but not being able to have a mechanism to report on it. So again, over here, these are some of the things that I sort of discovered. Let me go on my next. I have 2 minutes. Yeah, so the whole gist of it is that, again, like I said to you, there was no specific indicator for higher education. Some countries may have thought that setting a target for 2030 was next to impossible. Therefore, they decided that even a developed country like Canada decided they didn't want to set a target. So that and of course, there was no baseline data there as well. So I felt that that's something that was required for them to measure. How can they say they're doing a good job and they don't even know what they're doing? I mean, like, they don't know what the target is. A simple target. I thought of formulating a simple target for them. What about looking at number of disadvantaged groups that are fully represented at the higher education level at admissions and graduation? Number of disadvantaged groups participating in the students' councils and at leadership positions in the student council. Such indicators...
One minute.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, such indicators may be adopted at the national level to encourage Canadian higher educations to report on them. Last, okay, I'm on the last minute. It's important that it's mandatory. We do, you have mandatory report on these indicators, come up with a mechanism and come. Canada is a rich country with a lot of data and a lot of commitment from the government, but it needs to be put on paper. And another thing is that higher education institute gain a designating learning institute status so that international students are also encouraged to apply for providing this data, because many times you just get away with not having to include that data. So thank you very much for listening, and apologies for my speed.
Thank you very much, Rabia. Very interesting. While we get questions from the floor, and can you please raise your hands? Yeah, I'm sure you'll have questions, areas that you would like to explore further. Thank you. What comes to mind is really very interesting topic, and the thing that jumps out at me is the indigenous group and whether really the government doesn't have a way of measuring what is happening and what actions they might be taking, because they are doing a lot of work with them, are they? So it's kind of quite interesting to hear that. It would be useful to get your view on that.
Should I answer?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes, you're right. The government is making a lot of effort on the indigenous groups. The universities have got certain universities have certain scholarships, and for indigenous, they've even actually come up with attendance, an application form that is particularly geared towards, like, if you're an indigenous student, you get to fill up that. I don't know if that's like, that could be looked at so that they get that special attention that's required. Yes, there is some of them do collect, like I said, there is an effort being made by the government by providing even funding to universities that engage in the Canada researchers, engage indigenous people. But and now, even from the student survey aspect, which is now the data is being collected at the student level, which was never done before. So I can see that they have now started collecting data on it. And there are some initiatives that are being done, but without the data, I don't know why those initiatives were started. So that's why my question is, great, you're making the effort, but what's your baseline?
Yeah, thank you very much. George, if you can come on camera, if you're able to ask the question. Thank you.
Hi. Thanks, very interesting. And I think so why it's not only interesting, but particularly in the time as we see the challenges for universities, particularly in the attracting countries, Canada, USA, UK, increasingly Europe, and new competitors from the Middle East and the eastern areas like China and Singapore and Malaysia, is in TNE, if you really want to have real engagement, the TNE, as the first speaker Hazel was talking about, we've really got to declutter it and decolonize it, because otherwise it is a one-way journey. It's only being looked at from the normal people who lead on TNE. They're not incorporating issues like what you said. You don't have the statistics, and yet you're talking about your partner to come up to a particular standard when you're not prepared to understand why they're not at that level. And most of the reason is because you've always been attracting students to your territory, and you have not been asked to view the journey in a different way and learn from the other side and listen to the other side. And I think so this this data and this research you're doing is very, very informative and very, it's telling quite a lot. I think so to lots of universities of where they really need to engage if they want to go ahead to make dynamic TNEs into the future with competitive challenges that we as universities are facing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George.
Thank you, George, for the
Rabia,
encouragement.
thank you very much for the presentation. We would love to hear more as you progress in the journey and when you complete. So please stay in touch and good luck
Thank
with
you.
the
Thank you.
studies there. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
Oh,
Thank
wow.
you.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, while Rabia is here, sorry, I take advantage of this. While you're here, can I ask you to briefly tell us what the implications would be of your, very insightful and interesting these discoveries and the findings. Obviously, it's a Canadian context, and also in relation to other countries, of course. For the UN, for example.
Yeah, for me, it would be like stop giving money to monitor and report on something that you still haven't done yourself. Because I know that there are major donors, Canada, UK, all of them are very much, they in these developed countries. You give your agenda, you tell us what to do. But if you haven't done it, then first get your act together. I'm sorry, I'm being very blunt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
If you can stop presenting, please, and if I can ask that everyone goes off camera during the presentations, please.
I'll move it out and I'll just move out the meeting. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, no, don't leave, yeah? Just stay there, but be off camera, please. Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Andy Changqing Zheng, please. Are you with us, Andy? Thank you very much. So we have Dr. Give me 1 second. I think you are muted, but give me 1 second. Yeah. Dr. Andy, Education Service Officer at Widening University of Foreign Studies. Andy's been involved with transnational education programs for 10 years plus, and his major interests are transnational education, language teaching technology, computer assisted language learning. And today he's going to be sharing with us the key findings, key factors influencing the quality of TNE. And with this, over to you, Andy. Thank you.
We cannot hear you, I'm afraid.
We cannot hear you yet. Now a little bit.
No.
Okay, I'm trying use my laptop's microphone. I think
That's fine. Yes.
Yeah, this is
I'm not
fine,
sure.
and it helps if you speak up.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah, that's perfect. Just kind of maybe do it louder than you might normally do it, so we can hear it well. And it's okay, yeah?
I'm trying to use my another. Wait. I'm trying to use my laptop
We can
microphone.
hear, Andy, we can hear you very well now.
Can you hear me right now?
Very good. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks. I'm sorry for the.
Don't worry at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For the,
Over to you.
for the problem. Okay. Can you see my sharing of my PowerPoint slides? Hello. Can you hear? Can you see my sharing?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. Today I'm going to share my research. That is my PhD studies. Just finished last year, and my finding is already published in the Frontiers in Psychology. First of all, I would like to share the key findings. Give a brief introduction of the key finding of this research. This research is going to explore the in-depth factors and mechanism contributing to the programming. So my findings suggest that the high quality educational resources and the professional and the sympathetic lectures are the two major factors impacting the service quality, and the high quality cooperation between the local and the foreign institution is the reliable pathway to the successful of the sustainability and the program. My research is also propose a evaluation framework for TNE and a new way in introducing and localizing foreign educational resources. Okay, try to. Okay, since I have been working in the TNE program, I think more than 10 years. I think since 2012, this program is a China and UK joint MA program, which was set up in 2003. During my working experience, I found that students has a really good experience in this program. So they sometimes normally will express their gratitude to the quality of this program. So this is my original motivation to want to understand the service quality of this program. Since it is my PhD study, so I would like to report it as a thesis structure, but I will give a quick look of the literature. TNE, the Transnational Education in China, there is another official term for it. It is Chinese for in China, and
Andy,
there is yeah.
Sorry, you are breaking up a little bit. It might help if you go off camera.
Go off.
Just switch off the camera, your camera. So keep presenting and switch off your camera, please. That might help.
Switch off my camera.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can put the presentation. Yeah, much better. And can you put your presentation? Yeah, that's it. Presentation mode.
Is that okay?
Over to you.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
it is.
Thanks. I would like to introduce the background of the transnational education in China. And according to the newest statistic by 2021, there were over 150,000 students were enrolled each year and there are nearly 2,500 programs of the TNE program in China. But the TNE program in China is normally in a marginal status due to the academic weakness and the isolation of the TNE. And research in this area from the Chinese academic addressed that there is an inconsistency between the policy aims and the TNE practice in China. And the quality assurance practice in China mainly about the it is mainly managerialism and the central governance. And the service quality is normally evaluated. The evaluation is normally conducted by from top to down from the MOE. So there is no such pathway to do a student customer approach. So in the literature in this area suggests the student customer approach and also the other approach of the student satisfaction. And the empirical study in the service quality in TNE is mainly quantitative based. And for example, one of the influential research in China was conducted in 2012. They show that the difference between the importance in the satisfaction is significant in Chinese TNE program. And the empirical study in service quality studies as the main maximum is the recorded service quarrel with the important and the performance scale. And in my study, I also apply another theoretical framework, which called the transformative learning theory, to carefully look at the students' transformation during the studies. So this research, I propose a new analytic framework by using the by applying the student-central qualitative evaluation. In this framework, students' learning experience and also the student satisfaction were analyzed and to review the service quality. This is mainly a qualitative research with a case study approach, and the research questions are following. The first of all is the overall service quality. This a description of the service quality of this program, and the second research question is about the major factors, and the third question is about how do the factors in the research question 2 impact the service quality. And the data source is mainly the semi-structured interview with the 7 participants. And I would like to share the key findings. Yeah, the key findings. The overall service quality of this program. The first finding is students show great satisfaction with the TNE program, and the most important thing is that students were satisfied with the personal growth according to the service quality dimensions. The second research question is the 2 major factors are the high quality educational resources and also the professional and sympathetic lecturers. And for the mechanism in impacting the service quality, there is 3 ways. The first is the local institution. It served as the mediator bridging the local with the foreign, with the foreign in the introducing the educational resources, and also the foreign institution actively assimilatized to the local needs. And besides, there is a well-designed program enables students' experience of academic success. And
So that's 1
I would
minute.
like to, okay, I would like to go over to the discussion. To the discussion, and the high quality education resource is about that. It is the high quality education resources determine the service quality, and the assessment feedback and the learning community and institute reputation forms the high quality educational resources. And for the host institution, in this case, the host institution insists on the self-centered ideology, and the local institution also adopt an effective measure to localize the foreign educational resources. And for the foreign institution, okay, I would like to just 1 minute. I would like to share the implications for management. The TNE should be confirmed as one kind of the service program management, and the service quality evaluation is helpful to increase the mutual understanding, and also a practical implication for the local institution that insist. Local institutions should be insist on the self-centered ideology, and also implication for the foreign institution, they must insist on exporting high quality education resources to the host country and adapt to the host country's conditions. And for teacher educators, they are encouraged to foreign staff to pay more attention to the understanding of the host countries and the local students' practice. And practical implication for the policymakers, they have to make full use of the flexibility of the TNE and provide educational service to the public. And also for developing countries, they are encouraged to conducting TNE with the Western countries, and should insist on introducing, localizing, and the foreign educational resources on the self-centered ideology. And I think there might be all of my implications. I would like to skip the methodology implications. Okay, I think that's all my presentation. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. There is an echo.
I would like to stop to my.
And can you come on camera now, if you can?
Okay, I'm turning on. I'm sorry, I'm not so familiar with Teams since in China we use another app to do the to do the online meeting. Okay, hello Hazel. Hi, hello.
Can
Over
I go
to you,
ahead,
Hazel.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Excuse me. Andy, fantastic. I was wanting to stop you every so often because you were talking about mediators and the importance of professionally sympathetic lecturers, boundary spanners. But I was interested in power and trust, because you mentioned those and then they came up at the end. Can you say anything more about the importance of power and trust? Just briefly, because Herminia will shout at us otherwise.
The imbalanced power in the TNE between the local and the foreign institution, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it might be the case of this TNE program, since this TNE program is only awarded a UK university degree only. So we normally follow the regulation and the academic criteria of the UK university. We follow their criteria, the assessment and the modules, and so that is basically the UK program that based on China. So the Chinese student and the Chinese staff, most of us have to follow the UK instructions. So it is inbuilt. I think it is inbuilt imbalance of the powers.
Okay, I think I'll just finish by saying we've mentioned the awareness of culture, and it sounds sometimes still as if the emphasis is on the partner adapting instead of it being mutual. So I think this is something the whole team of us here will want to follow up on more generally. But thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Hazel. There are a couple of questions on the chat.
Okay,
Dr. Sarah Hannam, are you able to come on camera? I start reading the question. I was wondering if you could have, oh, here you are.
Okay.
Shall I read the question?
Yes, please. It's much better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you both, and thanks, Andy, for your presentation. I was just wondering, like, when you talked about the high quality educational resources for export from the partner, wherever the partner may be, could you give us a little bit more detail on what you mean by that?
Okay.
Thank you.
According to my data, the high quality educational resources is including the curriculum of the program, which match the local needs of the local needs. Another is the assessment of the feedback, which is in reasonable criteria, and it is also guaranteed the students' personal growth. And the other one is the learning community. It's quite interesting that before I conducting this research, I have no idea about the learning community. But in this program, during this program, I found that it is quite important that students have a learning community that is set up. It's not set up officially. It's just set up by the students. But I think it is sometimes it's about the high quality of the admission criteria. From the admission criteria, there's a group of capable students. They study together, they help each other, which form the high quality learning community. The learning community, I don't think it is educational resources important from the foreign institution, but it is a byproduct of this program, and it's a byproduct of the educational resources. Beside the three, another one is the institution's reputation. It's quite important that the institution reputation will pave the pathway of the students in their future career. So I think also to my data as ABCD, there are four important dimensions connecting to the high quality educational resources: the curriculum, assessment feedback, learning community, and the institutional reputations.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah, for asking the question. There are two questions on the chat. If I read them quickly, maybe if Jeremy and Vera can come on camera, and if you can be brief, whatever possible in the answer. So Jeremy is asking, what was your biggest surprise in your research? And Vera, I would like to understand more about self-centered ideology in this context.
Okay.
Jeremy and Vera, if you could come on camera, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy.
Ni hao, Andy, from Xinjiang. Ni hao.
Xinjiang. Okay, hi. Yeah, it is quite interesting question. Yeah, the biggest surprise, most important thing, I think, is the learning community. Since I have been working in this program more than 10 years. We didn't officially set up a learning community. We even do anything about that. But students, they value their learning community. They help each other, and so it makes me think about that, why there is a learning community here and why there isn't a learning community on the other program. So the main reason for me in this program may be the high quality, the high requirement.
You have 1 minute.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
About the learning
Oh.
community.
Thank you,
Thanks. I hope you can get it, Jeremy. And also, I would like to go to Varus. I would like to understand more about the self-center. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. The self-center. It is about how to say. It is about the local institution. They have to quite clear understand what they want, what they need. For the students, what they want for how to say, for training our students. They have they need to have a quite clear purpose, quite clear how to say, quite clear purpose on training the students in also as well as to introducing the foreign educational resources. Yeah.
Andy, thank you
thanks.
so much. I'm going to stop here, if I may.
Thanks.
That was very, very interesting. Congratulations on being a doctor, Andy. I'm sure the journey has not been easy. So well done. Yeah, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, with this, we move to our next presentation. And if I can have Karen, Steve, Araida, and William on camera, please. This presentation is on the creation of a roadmap to support the development of postgraduate partnership programs between the UK and Peru. And with this, I acknowledge colleagues that are joining us from Peru, where it's very, very early in the morning. So thank you so much for being here. The project was managed by Advance HE for the British Council in Peru. And we have Steve Autumn, who is the project lead. And as a consultant, Steve has carried out a number of projects with Advance HE with a particular focus on internationalization. And Araida Hidalgo, I've given up Araida in trying to explain your speciality, so forgive me for the simplicity. Araida is joining us from Manchester Metropolitan University, and her expertise is medical background. I'm going to leave it there. But from her pedagogical work, her focus is on the gap for the students of different ethnics, gender, and financial background, as well as internationalization of the curriculum. And Dr. Karen Smith, colleague and reader at higher education, reader in higher education at the University of Hertfordshire. She's also my supervisor. And she has a long-standing research and professional interest in transnational education. And I also wanted to add that it was actually Karen who encouraged me to do this, because it came as an idea, thinking, I really miss talking to other practitioners, researchers on internationalization, transnational education, and she was the instigator. Yeah, Vangelis really facilitated this at the TNE hub, but she really helped a lot. So thank you, Karen. And last but not least, William Machaca, who is the project manager for education projects for the British Council in Peru. And with this, I'm going to pass it over to you. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Herminia, y buenos días a todos.
Estoy
thank you for the introduction.
Impresionada.
So I'm Karen Smith, and we're here to share our development project for the British Council Peru, which culminated in a roadmap to support higher education institutions in Peru and the UK to engage in partnership programme development. Araida, if you can move on a couple of slides, thank you. As Herminia has said, the project was overseen by Advance HE, and today we've got the project team, myself, Araida and Steve, who is the project lead. We're also delighted to have William from British Council Peru, where it is really, really early. It's about 4:45 now in the morning. And we work closely with William from August 2022 to May 2023. So we're going to try and attempt what is very challenging this morning. We're going to give you an overview of the project with 4 speakers over 2 time zones in 15 minutes. We're going to do our best. Areda is going to move us through the slides. We're hoping to cover the background and the context to the project, the approach to the development, the roadmap itself, its content and format, and then have a section on further information and questions. So I'll get started by passing over to William.
Buenos días del Peru. Good morning. Yeah, it's very early in the morning. Thank you very much. Thank you, the TN Hub and Karen, for inviting to join this presentation. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to work with Advanced HE on this program. That is another milestone in this continuum of supporting higher education. For 2 years already, we have been implementing this global program that we have, Going Global Partnership, which translates in different forms in each country where we operate. In Peru, this year, we are celebrating the possibility of having the results of this and trying to build on what is to come next in order to help connect with universities and the higher education system in Peru to make it stronger, more inclusive, and more internationally connected. If we go to the next slide, I would like to refer very briefly to the strategic aims of this project. Of course, they are grounded in the needs and interests in the country that have been identified over the past years. One strategic aim was to enhance international research collaboration. Through this project, we aimed and we definitely achieved to this expectation of sharing knowledge and best practice. We brought together universities from different regions in the country. From the UK, I have seen some participants that from the UK also participated in the development of this project. And something that was key, that was identified as key, was the need to develop empowerment in the international offices at universities, which is something that is still a recurring problem in the country. International offices are usually appointed to people for a short term of time, and when they have to leave, they do not have they do not have the time to speak of major achievements here. So we wanted to help them, the universities and the system, to get better tools, more practical tools based on their on work that they build together at institutional and the system level. Something very important to mention here is that what marks the context of TNE in Peru is that the frameworks for quality assurance in Peru have evolved over the past 2 years, placing a key focus on internationalization. In the past, internationalization quality indicators were mainly mobility and agreements signed by universities. Today, the quality model frameworks for universities include internationalization as a cross-cutting aspect. For instance, the quality assurance model for accreditation of all public and private universities now have included internationalization factors in the model has 8 dimensions, out of which 7 have some shades or requests of internationalization in all different aspects of education provision. Well, I think it is time to continue with Steve now.
Thank you, William, and good morning to you and everybody else. So very quickly, next slide, please, Areda. People can see for themselves without me slavishly going through them what the goals, objectives and outcomes were from the brief that British Council and Peru gave us. I'll give you a couple of seconds to read through it. So just to pull out a couple of threads from that, and it links to everybody else's presentations today, I think, and that is looking at the goal of societal and economic development. There's clearly a transactional relationship between TNE and Peru, as well as a transformational one. And our focus was on being transformational, but understanding the bottom line. Co-creation, as Areda will tell everybody later on, was fundamental to what we're doing, and we use a number of devices, including interviewing experts through a Delphi methodology in order to achieve that. And then the other thing to say is that, yes, as William has said, it was important to be inclusive, but also we wanted to look at what we meant by internationalization, and in particular, of course, looked at Advanced AG's own framework for internationalization, but also looked at the Warwick model with its particular emphasis on intercultural awareness and intercultural competence.
Now, just to tell you more about our working principles, the team really focused, for starters, on a non-deficit model. That was very important for the team working with the Peruvian colleagues, but also to ensure that the Peruvian voice was at the center of the project. We didn't want to be a UK-based team going to Peru and telling them what they should be doing for TNE. We wanted to hear from them what was the expertise, what were the strengths, what were the areas that they could really use for TNE, and where the support was needed. And of course, as you have seen through the previous slides, accessibility and inclusivity is at the heart of our project. Very much started with science, technology and innovation for female applicants and students, but soon it transmitted into other fields and other areas. Just to tell you more about the phases that we use for our project, we decided to go into 3 stages. The first one, we completed a needs analysis with our Peruvian and our UK institutions and colleagues. We really wanted to identify the challenges, the barriers, and of course the opportunities as well that were present in these teams. The second stage was building those capacity workshops, developing them and running with colleagues from the UK and from Peru. And then finally, and drafting, of course, the roadmap through that feedback, and finally validating that through some exercises and workshops that were run with senior leaders, again, both from the UK and Peru. This culminated launching the roadmap a couple of months ago, which was a really good experience because we were able to be part of the Ministry of Education of Peru's series of webinars.
So the roadmap, can you move on, Areda, for me? Thanks. So the roadmap is organised into 5 parts. You can see an image there in the corner of the finished roadmap, which is available through the British Council Peru site and also through Advanced HE's site as well. And the links are a little bit further on in the presentation. So part 1 introduces the purposes of the roadmap and how to use it. Part 2 provides an overview of the context of internationalisation generally, but then in relation to Peru and to the UK specifically, it goes on to cover the nature and scope of transnational education with a particular focus on joint and dual degrees at postgraduate level, as this was the focus of the project overall. Part 3 looks at getting started and addresses initiating activities. Part 4 enables partners to start their joint dual degree journeys by planning partnerships and programmes, and Part 5 helps partners to plan for delivery, including both longer term developments and how to close the project, how to close the programme. So the content of the roadmap has been informed by desk-based research that was carried out at the start of the project. through publications and guidance, including those from the British Council. The expertise of the project team, so some of my previous work on transnational education, Irida's work in the area of equality, diversity and STEM, and both the roadmap and the project generally benefited from Irida's English to Spanish translation, which is now legendary. Steve's experience in project management, educational development was drawn into the project as well, and can be seen in the use of academic and organisational development tools, checklists and infographics. And the roadmap benefited from the consultation with William and colleagues at the British Council Peru, but also with other UK and Peru professionals and practitioners, Peruvian policymakers through briefing sessions, consultation sessions, and our ethically approved validation activities. So these conversations really did shape the final document. The result was generative and creative, driven by the values and principles that guided the work. Feedback on our initial drafts resulted in a more concise and navigable final document, used more visual elements to guide the reader through the document, and was more advisory than prescriptive. So I'm going to pass to Steve, who's going to give a bit more information on the content.
Thank you, Karen. And just to echo, first of all, Irida's absolutely legendary translation skills, absolutely brilliant. And secondly, this has been probably one of the best teams I've ever worked with, and it's just amazing. So just looking at content for a moment, as Karen has said, it was the challenge was to be comprehensive but also concise. And through that, we did two things. One was to use checklists as a way of starting a conversation, not just to tick a box. And secondly, informed by British Council's work in India, links to that report I've put into the chat box, as well as links to the roadmap itself in Spanish, and also references for Karen's work. Next slide, please. And here again, you can see the different steps that we took based on the British Council India report. I noticed in big letters the importance of being inclusive, and we had that as a mindset throughout, including things like the development of inclusive leadership based on work done by colleague Agnes Fletcher. And again, the notion of intercultural awareness and competence. Next slide, please. So just simply say, we found checklists to be invaluable, both as a way of guarding against failure, as well as being able to give people a way of getting started and being successful. And it's a bit like the QAA success criteria playbooks, which have been created. That was something that led us down this road. Next slide, please. So here we can see another infographic. It's simply the flow chart, which gives people a way through the guide. And if people are already familiar with TNE, then they can go to different steps according to where they are. They don't have to start at 1 and go through to 10 as though they were playing snakes and ladders. And next slide, please. Here's another example of an infographic, and again, a way of trying to make it accessible and concise at the same time as being comprehensive. So at the end of each step, there were a series of checklist questions, and then this summary infographic summarizing the whole step. Thank you. Next slide. And we're done. Any questions?
So if you want to know more, of course, Steve mentioned that there are some links already available for you. This report has been published. And of course, with TNE, we have to consider that we cannot expect everybody to speak English. So we have to, we need the language of the home institution as well, very present in the team. And as it has mentioned before, not only with one member of a staff or of the team, with several, we cannot rely only on one person. So we were very lucky that,
I have to
of course,
interrupt
William
with the 1 minute
as well.
Apologies.
And we just want to thank, of course, the British Council and Advanced HE. And we are available if you have further questions. Of course, those are our contact details, but we're open to questions now. Thank you.
And thank you, William.
Thank you very much. That was impressive. And for me, it's very, very nice to see that there is work done in Spanish, because everything seems to be English, English, English. So it's lovely to hear that there is some work or be exposed to some of the work in Spanish. Give me 1 second so that I can see Vangelis.
Right.
Would you like to come on?
Yeah, I'm taking advantage here.
Yeah.
if I may. Thanks a lot. That was impressive. I want to raise a question that links to this session, but also to Andy's session, and it goes down to the language aspect. So we heard from Andy about the contextualization and adaptation to the host country. We see yourselves doing work that is available in the local language. So what is your take when it comes to, and I'm borrowing the term decluttering and decolonizing TNE that was mentioned earlier in regards to the language of delivery? So what's your take about that?
Yes. Completely agree with it. And as we continue to work together on TNE activities, so that becomes even more important at the forefront of our minds. So if we take something like project management, we're aware that that is culturally laden, and like that term, would want to go further in looking at what it means locally rather than what it means as people understand it in English. William, you had some interesting experiences, I recall, in looking at both the English version and the Spanish version and the nuanced differences between the two.
Right. There, first to address the theme of language, I would say that it's in Peru. I guess it's a shared idea that the language something that universities already like taken as a must because they want to go. Part of their internationalization strategy is also like increasing number of publications. So they do believe that English should be like the language that needs to be present in these conversations. However, and based on the experience that we had, it was very interesting to see that Peruvian university participants, many of them, the ones who could manage the language, they would choose to use English. No, when they had the chance to use Spanish, that happened many times. And it's interesting to see that Araida's translation helped a lot, but still, I mean, they were most people wanted to. They would use both languages interchangeably, and some point that is interesting is that, and what I think Steve refers to the fact of the translation. It was interesting to see how within language we had different ways to say certain things, like alianzas and sociedades, that it was not a problem of seeing what the translation for English words were in Spanish, but how would English best translate in the Spanish that we use in different parts of the region. Yeah, that was interesting.
And also in terms of the roadmap and the development of the partnership programs, I think written into it was an expectation or that the programs themselves might be bilingual. It wasn't deemed that it would be in English, for example. There was a discussion about bilingual programs as well in there. So not just the way in which we approach the project, but also within the roadmap itself.
Just to reiterate what William said about the language, even when we were working on a Spanish version, with me checking on it with Mexican Spanish, there were definitely differences with the Peruvian Spanish, which you might assume that, well, if we have someone who speaks the language, it'll be all right. It doesn't matter if it's Brazilian Portuguese or Portuguese. But in reality, it is really important to get those stakeholders as part of the team to go through the materials, because ultimately when these are published, you want them to be as accessible and easy to understand for those involved on the ground.
Thank you very much. Hazel, would you like to come on camera to ask the question, please?
Yes, I was going to just add an observation, because yesterday I was talking with our quality team, the partnerships quality team, about the vocabulary involved in quality procedures with partners who are either using English as a first language or as another language, and how the socio-cultural context and meaning of vocabulary and who is using it is as important as the language. So, for example, working in Sri Lanka, where English is the language of education right from childhood, who is saying something and what the words mean. Our quality colleagues often don't appreciate the wider socio-cultural context. And it's something that we're looking at now as to how to make those quality procedures as effective as possible and do that reaching into both organisations. So if anyone wants to get involved, you know, emails on the list. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Hazel. And Dawao, can you come on camera, please, to ask the question?
Yeah, thanks very much to the team for such a efficient presentation, and particularly to colleagues at in Peru for starting so early. And my question is your roadmap. Can you tell us why you focus on the postgraduate? Is it because of the market or because of other considerations? I know you are talking about a national context and, of course, international with the UK, these partnerships.
Maybe I can
William,
jump in very, yeah.
Yes.
Well, we focused on postgrad basically because of one of those reasons that we just discussed, and language. The language barriers would be more significant in undergrad studies, according to criteria here for students to move on from undergraduate studies to postgraduate is English. They have to attain a B2 level in order to get to postgraduate studies. So that was probably one of those reasons. Yeah. And that definitely would go in line with our main purpose of enhancing the exchange between Peru and the UK. No, so language will count as a very important aspect when we decide on what projects to start and implement.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to pass it over to Dawao in a minute, but before I do that, can I ask that Vangelis, all the other presenters, and Hazel come on camera, please? And Dr. Dawao, Associate Professor at the University of Reading, is going to put together the kind of key points, concluding points of this event. And before I do that, I just wanted to say he's associate professor, and as of the 1st of August, he has achieved his professorship. So I wanted to congratulate him, and I invite everyone to clap and thank him. Well, congratulate him on that. And with that, over to you, Dawao. One more thing, sorry, I'm trying to juggle here a few things. All the presenters, Hazel and Dawao, can you please go to the invitation that has been sent to you after this meeting? And thank you, everyone. Okay, over to you, Dawao.
Thank you so much, Hermania, for drawing us together for this event, and thanks to all the amazing, the presenters, teams of presenters, for your very stimulating and insightful these presentations and your research. I noticed I will do a quick summary in the interest of time, but I'm sure I made very important aspects. So other colleagues may have noticed, yeah, just as a prelude to that. And so I noticed this, how diverse the presentations are today, yeah, covering so many contexts, and so many from so many different continents and the time zones coming together. We all have an interest in transnational education and the internationalization, obviously, to share our experiences, the insights. Yeah, and these presentations are from obviously, either doctoral students who have done or are doing their very in-depth research with a particular focus, and also practitioners. And some of the doctoral researchers are also practitioners themselves, obviously. So it's a really, I think, interesting, this mixture of presentations and context. If I may, can I just pick up on two themes? One related to the relations and the power, and also what is called this decolonizing of these transnational partnerships, and some mention this non-deficit model, and cutting through many of these concepts are obviously this inclusivity and etc. Yeah, so these are. And as Vangelis pointed out, this may be a new trend of shifting from the Western, to the South to South. Yeah, this mobility, whether students or staff. I think these are really interesting developments. Maybe in the coming years as well. Yeah, becoming stronger. And the other theme, I think already, yeah, in relation to the first, I think they are already expressed interest in doing joint projects. And in the chat, I see people have already started to network and link up, thinking about, what's the next project. These are really interesting for networking as well. Yeah. The second theme I picked up is in relation to language, culture, and intercultural understanding and competence. I think for internationalization, and the transnational education involving different partners from different countries and cultures, obviously, it's essential to develop, a good intercultural understanding and sufficient intercultural competence to be able to obviously, make the partnerships work, whether these are from the perspective of students or staff as practitioners. Yeah, so these are also, areas of future collaboration and further development. Yeah, so yeah, I would like just to summarize these two. Yeah, as I said, I must have omitted a very important themes. Other colleagues I've noticed. I'm sure other colleagues can point those out. Yeah, or follow up. And again, very privileged to be involved in the organizing team. And very interested. I was very motivated, to maybe do further work. Inspirations from these researchers or research teams. Yeah, as commented in the chat. I think all the audience, they have. I think yes, of course, we need to not only thank all the presenters, but also the amazing audience we have. Yeah. The questions, the stimulating, engaging questions they asked. So we can say we have a very, we have a brilliant, engaging, and engaged audience, which make this event really, valuable. Yeah, thank you very much. Hand over back to Armenia and Vangelis.
Thank you very much, everyone, for attending, all the presenters for putting together all the work and sharing your research, and Vangelis for facilitating the TNE Hub and believing in this idea. Vangelis, over to you.
No, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for organizing. Thanks to Herminia, Hazel, Dokuz, and well done for your promotion. Just to remind everyone that we have a major event in the pipeline that we are going to announce shortly. It's going to take place sometime in November. We are going to issue a call for submissions, and this is going also to link with a publication either as a special edition in a special journal edition or an edited book or both. So we are still thinking about it, but yeah, look out for that announcement that we are aiming to do possibly in the next couple of weeks. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for joining. I think it was a fascinating discussion. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.